Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Best Ever You Show. I'm Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, here with the amazing author Wade Rouse, also known as Viola Shipman. Hi, how are you? Yes,
Hi,
it's so good to see you finally.
you too. That's what we were talking about. I feel like we've kind of run in concentric circles for the last couple of years, and it's actually wonderful to talk to you finally face to face.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't do this sooner, but we've been like, I think I was waiting for you like to just be on the show before because I kind of want to discover all these things organically about you rather than like asking you in phone call, but discover you with the audience too. So,
It's nice. Yeah, we'll do it in real time. And I say we've really emailed a lot over the
oh
last
yeah.
year.
Oh, and I completely one of the things, if you don't know, so this is an author chat. If you're listening, watching, everything, we're going to talk about being an author, how to be an author. We're going to talk about your new book. Look at that. There it is. You got it behind you too. It's just launched. And people might be you write under the name Viola Shipman. Let's start there. Who is Viola to you?
Viola is me, really,
Yeah.
essentially. And I always say, I know it sounds like a literary Victor Victoria, a man using a woman's name to write fiction. That I grew up in the Missouri Ozarks. My grandmother was working poor. She was a seamstress. She stitched overalls at a local factory her entire life. She never finished high school. She never learned to drive. And she was my best friend growing up. She really um, gave me unconditional love. I said, I grew up in very rural America in the 1970s, and this in rural America in the 1970s wasn't a really good fit. Um,
I'm from
it was,
Iowa.
it could be very tough at times, very wonderful at times, and very tough. And my grandmother really wrapped me in her arms and taught me that it was okay to be myself. And she taught me what mattered most in life, which is the simple things in each other. And that's what I try to bring to every book that I write. Kind of those things that we forget about every single day, but we've been reminded of these past few years. It's just each other that really matters in the end.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how I first met you. I think one of your books came across Best Ever You to put on the show or to do to publicize or something like that. And it was kind of when you were very first like you're gaining more and more and more momentum and I could kind of feel it and I'm like this is so cool to watch you grow and succeed and realize your dreams and all these things. There's how many books do you have now? Like 15? Is it more?
15. Yeah, it doesn't seem possible. And I think we're on the same emotional vibe here
Oh
and
yeah.
what we do in our lives. I didn't start writing until I was 40 years old. I always wanted to write, and you've heard it probably much like I did my whole life that, my father was a chemical engineer. You go to college, people major in business or accounting, and you do careers that have a concrete path. And to be an author, I always wanted to write, but to be an author was something you didn't do. It was just not normal. You weren't going to make a career in the arts or writing. And you listen to that most of your life. And you have to unlearn a lot of that, like I did, to start actually writing and be published. And that was best decision I ever made was quitting a great job and starting to write full time. And I've never looked back since.
Yeah, same. Doing that, half of me is financial services and half of me is I don't know which half either, but half of me is financial services and half of me is author. And I do the same thing. It's like, I struggle with that all the time. Like, go get I've had people say, go get a real job, go do this,
Mm.
go do that, and everything. And if you let it get in, it can do damage to what your dreams really are. I'm 53 now and just putting books out. It's crazy. So I always say you can do anything at any age. You just gotta
There is no age or time limit, and especially for anyone writing a book. I think it's a journey towards self-actualization of youth being capable and willing and wanting to write that book, and then having it come out in the right way. You know, I always say every writer uses the same vocabulary and literary tool belt. It's just how we bring those stories to life that sets us apart. And what you're trying to do and doing is different than what's been done before as well. It's it's approaching it in your own beautiful, magical way that separates us and makes that dream come true.
I think what touches me most about your books is you weave the self-help into it. And I pick up on it. I love it. I'm like, there it is. Talk about that a little bit because I know I can see it in there and it's subtle, but it's not.
It's Thank you. It's interesting. I probably am part author and part psychologist, maybe in a way. I really love to bring life lessons into every book that I write. And I also try to inspire and give people kind of a rope of hope and life. And
Yeah.
a lot of it is advice that I try to dole out, life lessons. And much of that did come from my grandmother. She um, was often treated very poorly in her life um, due to circumstance. And it was hard for me to watch, and it was hard for me to see people treat her poorly. And yet she lived life with an incredible grace and
Mm.
resilience. And my mother was a hospice nurse at the end of her career, kind of the
Oh,
second stage of her career. And I used to go, I rode all over the Ozarks as she cared for people at the end of their lives. And my mother would walk out and often tell me the stories of these people's lives, at the end of their journey, often without family or money or health care. And my mother always said, don't live your life with regret.
yeah.
So many people complete their journey filled with regret of what they didn't accomplish, what they should have done, things they dreamed but never set forth to accomplish. And she used to beg me not to do that. And so I think my entire life has been filled with kind of these incredibly strong, resilient women filling me with advice that I
Mhm.
finally listened to in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate for people, oh my gosh, following their hearts and listening to their voices and taking a risk and a chance in life and truly trying to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do. My mom always said
Yeah, it is.
unconditional love is the hardest thing in the world to give and receive because we're taught most of our life to love or give love with conditions. I will love you if, or
Yeah.
love me, I will love you, but, and just to live in a different kind of way and love in a different kind of way will set you free. And I believe that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I love about you is that you're open to like you let me love you from afar in an email and it was the coolest thing. And I can see it right here, all the love for you. I don't know if you can see the chat, but I can see the chat. So we have to pause for some love for Wade. You have Linda says hi. Diane says hello from New Jersey. Tammy says hello from Kansas City. Barbara says hello
Oh,
from North Carolina. And Diamond Greer says greetings. So you've got some love pouring in.
love that.
And yeah, and I think that'd be for you whether you write books or not. You're just a nice person, and I think it shows through your smile, your grace, your elegance, your everything about you, and then it just totally comes to life in your books. I mean, you can just feel everything. And somebody just said, "I love Wade's words of wisdom." So there you go.
And I feel the same way about you. I do. I feel it sounds. I don't want this to. I always say this, and I don't, hate that it sounds so corny, but I
It's
believe it.
okay.
I do. The ripple effect of kindness in this world. If you are nice or kind, that sends a wave out. I think that continues to go forward. Just the same as if you're awful, that does the same thing. And
Yeah, it
we
ripples out too, doesn't
we have enough
it?
awful in this world.
Yeah, we need love. So you guys, as you're listening to the show, chat what you want me to ask Wade, and I'll just ask, and we'll have this be interactive. Those are the most fun shows when the
Yeah.
audience participates. So if you've got a question, just type it in. I can see. So if I'm looking in all different directions, pardon me, because I've got chat here, and I'm doing the controls for the show too. So, okay, let's talk. Let's talk about your new book. Oh, you know what? Actually, can I ask you a question? I want to ask you about a different book, but I don't know if I'm going to remember the title offhand. Grandma and um, the flower garden and all of that. Which book was that again?
The Heirloom Garden
That's it.
is
Yep, the Heirloom Garden. That is what talk about needing to be nice to people and get past their aches and their pains and everything to unfold all the love. That was just a fit. I read that book while I was writing one of my books.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that
I
was
love that book.
that's still one of my favorite novels, and it came
Yeah.
out at the height of COVID and was interesting because it was, I think, the most difficult novel I've written to date because of the research regarding the heirloom flowers, but also touched on so many things in our lives. How we can be so isolated, especially in a time, how we treat our elderly, how we often expect military when they return home to be just totally normal and fine again. And I love that book, and it had kind of a quiet opening in the midst of what happened during the pandemic. And it's been a novel that's really, I think, over time resonated more and more and more, and it just seems to have a new life every year, which has been lovely. I still love that book, and I actually read from it a lot. You asked
Yeah.
when you do
I do.
author events,
I do.
I read from that probably as much or more than any other novel.
I learned from you while I was writing my book, and I was careful. I'm like, okay, that's him. That's his writing. I need to make sure I don't move that into my book. But it was kind of like that. I'm like, I'm learning here. But I remember also sending you copies, pictures of flowers from my garden. I kept doing that. Like,
Good.
Annie, here. Do people do that all the time? Like,
They do, and I love you. It's true though. It's so many of these things, these objects that I often write about, really are deeply personal to us. They're not just a flower, but they have a seminal memory, from a family member, or maybe your husband gave you a bouquet of something, or whatever it is, they speak to us very deeply. And I think that's, for me, that's always kind of an in to everybody's emotions. It's a way to kind of slowly weave your way into touching them.
Yeah. Okay, we're going over the comments for a minute. Currently reading A Wish for Winter. Also just wrapped up my ornament you signed for my friend. Oh, that's sweet.
Uh,
I love that. Okay, my grandmother always says, you put good out into the world and good will come back. Thank you for that comment. Here's a question for you. What would you do as a career? This is Rosie, I think is her name, Rosie. What would you do as a career if you weren't an author? And Heirloom Garden was my favorite Viola book too.
uh, oh God, that's a hard one. I probably might be institutionalized.
Yeah.
I've said this before, I've always been fascinated with weather. So maybe if I could get the science part down, maybe a meteorologist. And I thought that sounds wacky, but growing up in the Ozarks, I was fascinated with, we were in Tornado Alley, what is what they called it.
Yeah.
So storms were ever present. And then moving to Michigan, I was fascinated with snow and lake effect snow and why it never seemed to stop. And now in Palm Springs, I'm fascinated with the weather, and when we hike, kind of the different ways the mountain kind of speaks to me. So I don't know, that probably would be it. I like clothes too, so maybe something with clothes. I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah, our son just graduated with a master's degree in meteorology. That is a
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Yeah, he's 25 years old. But my thing about that degree is and it might work for you, but they put once they start putting letters in the math, I'm out.
It's
It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
I get it. So does he want to be a meteorologist, or on TV, or does he want to be more of like behind the scenes
In the
research?
back. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wants to work for the Weather Service, the National Weather
Wow.
Service. So, yeah,
That's
great degree from Mississippi
fascinating.
State. Yeah, thank you. All right, let me you guys are really going with the comments here. Hang on. Let me go back here and keep asking questions. Good evening from Texas. We got that. Hello, Chester. Good evening to you too. The cover and artwork are unique. They were done by Gary. I think that they're talking about Heirloom Garden. I love
Yeah.
the comments here. Gary's flower artwork. They're talking about what's your flower artwork for? Is that the Heirloom Garden? We're going to talking about
Yeah,
your
the
other.
heirloom garden we did, at the last minute, I asked the publisher if I thought it'd be sweet to actually have, because a lot of people aren't gardeners or know a lot about flowers, to actually have pictures of the different heirloom flowers I was writing about. And they thought that seemed a little maybe cold. And I came up with the idea of having Gary just, because he's a very good artist,
Yeah.
do pencil sketches of the different flowers. And people love that. We actually have that in the Viola Shipman gift shop. We have tea towels and other things that have the drawings of the flowers. They're quite
Oh, I
lovely.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
very pretty.
All right, I just
Gorgeous.
learned something. Is there a website for that?
Yeah, violashipman.com, and
Okay.
you click on gifts and it takes you right
Okay.
there.
That I have not done, so I didn't know that. Okay, so ornaments. Tell us about the ornaments. You have ornaments. Do they go
Yeah,
with this book?
we launched this brand. It's very funny because we did not intentionally start this, but we started to get a lot of reader requests that said, "I would love to have, if you ever did any." This is a favorite quote of mine from a book.
Yeah.
Would you ever think of doing something with that that might be a gift for my mother or grandmother or sister of
Oh,
that?
sweet.
So we did. Launched this year. We just started it in March, and we launched holiday ornaments and trivets and art plaques and tea towels, coasters, mugs, tumblers.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
And we did it with a local artist in the resort town that we live in Michigan. It's an arts community, so we thought it would be a small business helping a small business. And she hand draws, designs, creates every product.
Beautiful.
um, and drawing. And then we have it in store in a gift shop in Saugatuck, and then we have it online as well. And it's gone crazy. People, I think, love to have a piece of comfort in their lives.
Yeah. And you, I think it's you and you're I love the way that you're tied to Michigan and you talk about Michigan a lot. I think that's really special. I bet the people just love that.
It is. I didn't know a lot about Michigan until I moved there full time, and I absolutely fell in love with the state. It's one of the most beautiful geographical states in the nation, and much like I think the Hamptons or Cape Cod, these quirky resort towns kind of fill western and northern Michigan, and they're beautiful and have fascinating, rich histories. From my town of Saugatuck to Mackinac Island.
Mm.
So I mean, it's endless, and I think people love, whether it's the Low Country or Ellen Hildebrand and Nantucket. I think people um, love places that they want to escape to.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this new book. Tell us all about your new book. And also, is there any way that you to somebody in the chat, is there any way you would gift a signed copy to somebody in the chat? Would you
Sure.
do that? Would that be the
Yeah.
coolest thing ever for
Yeah,
being
you
here
can
tonight?
if you randomly pick or
Yeah.
however you want to do it, just yeah, let us know and we will we'll send one out.
If you want to do, if one of you guys wants to win a signed copy of the book, just type in the chat, I do, or me, or something like that. And we'll pick somebody. I'll have one of my kids pick somebody, but tell us about your new book. This is
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's sweet. Yeah, I was
Wish for
like, let make it random.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, Wish for Winter just came out in November, and it's kind of my second winter Christmas book after last year's The Secret of Snow. And I always say on the surface it sounds like an Emily Henry rom-com. It's about a 40-year-old independent bookstore owner who mother and grandmother both met their future husbands while he was dressed as Santa Claus. And she feels it's her destiny and curse to do the same. And she lives in Michigan. We do this. She lives way up here in a beautiful little resort town called Petoskey, Michigan. Real town, absolutely gorgeous. It looks like a mini San Francisco.
Oh, neat.
Beautiful, beautiful in the winter and filled only with independent stores. It has no chains in it.
Hmm.
Gorgeous. And she feels like her town has been her entire life trying to set her up with any eligible bachelor wearing a Santa cap. And she's kind of done at the age of 40. And she ends up going at the request of one of her best friends to the Chicago run or to the Santa run in Chicago, which is a real deal. It's a 10K where everybody dresses as Santa and Mrs. Claus. And at the start of the race, she meets a guy she has a connection with. Like she really feels something for him that's never happened before. Before they can get each other's names or see each other's faces, the race starts and they're torn apart. And he tells her to meet him at a local bar, and she shows up and he doesn't. And she's like, okay,
Oh, killing me here.
finito, I'm done. So she returns home and just kind of reacclimates into the bookstore life again. And behind her back, her grandparents who helped raise her and her employees and her friends start an online dating app called The Single Kringle. to find this missed connection, because how hard could that be? I mean, right? To
Right.
find the unknown Santa man with kind of good legs. And it really forces her back out of her comfort zone. And it's a I never write just like a typical romance or fluffy novel. This is a book, um, in which she lost her parents when she was young. She was named after the little girl Susan in Miracle on 34th Street, and she kind of grew up believing in the magic of the holidays and lost all of that when she lost her parents. And it's a book about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Really being able not only to forgive others in your life, but yourself. And it's about, as I spoke earlier, unconditional love, the fact that you cannot love another until you truly love yourself. And it's it's funny and sad and quirky, and I just absolutely love the book. And it celebrates books in our lives. It's all about the books that save us and how they connect us, and a book about friendship. And I talk a lot about my grandmother, and I talk a lot about my grandparents, but this is the first book where grandparents are kind of the center of the novel too. They really saved Susan's life. They helped raise her, but it was like with my grandparents, I didn't really know all that they gave me until life started to hurt me a lot.
Yep.
And then I realized that I could stand up and take a step forward. And then I could take another step forward. And it's because of the strength that they instilled in me from a very early age. So it's a lovely book that celebrates the holidays in a beautiful way. But also what we go through at the holidays, it's not always shiny Christmas tree perfection. A lot of the time it's, we deal with grief and
Pain.
loss and loneliness and pain. And I try to deal with that in a really heartfelt, meaningful
Yeah.
way. As a
I
way
know
to
that
connect
well.
with people.
Yeah, with my father passing in 2018 and my mom all alone, they were married for 45 years. It was just heart-wrenching. And I really thought we were going to lose both my mom and dad at the same time
Oh
because my
my
mom was
gosh.
so heartbroken, and I think you can die of a broken heart. And it felt like she was going to. So I live in Maine and I kept going back and forth between Maine and Minnesota and all these things. So yeah, I feel for people around the holidays. And I'm not sure time quite fixes it. They always say time, I don't know. It still sucks. So yeah, it's
It
tricky. You
really
want to
it
call
does.
dad and go, hey, how's it going? And
Yeah, and
yeah,
I wanted, I tried to I think this book helps give voice
to that.
to what people go through,
Yeah.
or I hope it does. And you're exactly right. Sometimes it's everybody saying it's okay, feel better,
Mm,
and
yeah.
it's not okay, and it's not going to get better. But you need your own time, and you also need a lot of space and nurturing and kindness, and
Yeah.
you need that more than ever. And oftentimes we tend not to give that. We can't deal with others' pain, so we take a step back, and that's the worst thing that we can do.
Yeah. All right, you have questions. Thank you for all that. We got a lot of me, 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 me. Got a lot of people want to win the coffee, so good. You have a question. How did you come up with the name of her date at the pizza place?
Mm. Yeah, his name there. She goes on a very horrible date
Yeah.
with a man named Cletus Bothwell, whose name was partially made up and partially real, based on someone that I knew when I was younger. And the
Must have
date,
not been a nice guy.
yeah, and the date is kind of inspired. We have a very dear friend of ours that's in her early 50s that and this is part of the book too. She's very successful, gloriously, happily single, does not need someone to complete her or fulfill her,
Yeah.
would love to find love. Um, but, there's some awful dating that happens out there. And she seems to check a lot of the boxes. So she always often calls us after a bad day. It's like, you got to are you up? You got to hear this.
So he said that name was something else. That's funny.
Bad name, bad date,
Bad person, huh?
bad
Um,
person. Yeah.
Bad person, and it sounds like maybe in real life a little bit too, somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us what are some of I'm going to back up a little bit actually, because I don't know if people know this about you or not, but you're a student of writing. Do you want to talk about that? Like you're an actual like you. I think I read you teach writing. I know you helped me. You're like that sentence isn't right or whatever. I ran a few things by you. You're really really talented at writing to the point of teaching it, studying it, and so forth. It's not just. It's hard to write books that are that long. you know.
It's it Thank you. It is. I started I've written my whole life. I started as a journalist. I went to journalism school and started as a reporter, um, and as a magazine writer. All, I think, wonderful skills to kind of lay the groundwork. I was able to write on deadline. Um, I was the last class at Northwestern, at Medill School of Journalism, that used typewriters, if you can believe that, before we switched to Macs.
Same at
And I will,
Ambrose.
and I will say there is something about going into a class and having 30 minutes to bang out a story on deadline,
Yeah.
on a typewriter and turn
I
it
know.
into your professor, because you're having to do this as quickly as possible, but you're also editing as you go. And
Yeah.
I think that was a really great skill. I learned a lot. I remember my first month at Northwestern, a professor, I used the verb get, and he walked up and wrote it on the chalkboard, and he said, "There are 1,000 better verbs than this.
Oh,
Wade, terrible, terrible." And people just started shouting out the verbs that I could have used, and it just you I think the more it's like anything you do, the more you write, the more you run, or the more that you paint, whatever it is, the more you do your own taxes, the better you get at it. You just time really does make you better at things and practice.
yeah.
And I love teaching writing. I haven't had as much time the last year to do so, but I've helped teach and lead a
Mhm.
few writers, to be published by major publishers. And a lot of it is psychological, is breaking down fear that people have about writing, or what we think we should write to be successful. I'm going to write the next Harry Potter or Twilight. Um, if that doesn't call to you, if that's not what you are yearning to write, it'll never be good. It'll never be successful. You'll never finish. So I love getting people to the point where, we all have that voice up here. How do you get that here?
Out.
How does this get down? And that's unlocking everything for new writers.
Yeah, I write in crayon a lot and markers and colored pen. I almost like draw write. Like for me, when I start writing a book, I'll take a stack of unlined paper and staple them on the side like a
Mhm.
book and put the title right there, and then just start adding to
Wow.
it, like visualizing it and things like that. I don't sit down at a computer and just bang out a book. It just does not work for me.
I
I have
love
to
that.
handwrite and then type and handwrite and then type. But I'm older too. I'm in my mid 50s, so I remember typewriters and the auto correct sheets and all that stuff in journalism school also. So it doesn't come naturally to me to just sit on the computer and type out a book
And I
that
love you
long.
for
It's
sa
hard.
and you I hope people that want to write heard what you said, because I say that a lot. There is no right and wrong way to approach
Yeah.
it. There is none. You do not have to and I don't even do this. You don't have to sit down and have page 1, word 1. It could be a seminal memory that calls to you that you have to get down, that starts an entire flow of a book or an idea or whatever it may be. It just and every person is different how they approach it, and that's okay. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, for me, like, it's not a linear journey from chapter 1 to 10 or whatever. I'll chapter 10 will be done, and then I'll go back to 2 and then 8, and then, well, it's totally, different. I'll have an idea of where I'm going, but I'll add to it as I go.
And
Do you do that?
that's how I approach memoir writing a lot. It is what I call puzzle piece writing. It will
Yeah,
start with a deeply personal memory or story, and I know the story I want to write, but it never ever starts with the first word or the first page. It always starts somewhere else. and then you come around to it. And I think that's a really healthy way to approach however you want to start something.
Yeah. What do you think about editing? Because a lot of people are so afraid to write because they don't know, the comma, the semicolon, and the colon. Those things are just like, mystery punctuation.
I'll do the two answer parts of editing. One is the grammatical piece. I took copy editing in graduate school and thought I was very good. Um, it's you try to do the best you can, but it's never going to be right. You're going to send it in. Every book I send in to my editor, after it's edited, it goes to the copy editor a couple of times, and it looks like a sea of red. I mean,
Yeah, it does,
the
doesn't it?
rules that they follow, the way they do it, is different than how you will approach it. I felt like an idiot the first 2 or 3 books that I wrote.
Yeah, I
It's
tried.
just,
Like,
it's not. It's You just try the best you can. The other editing is actually the hardest part for me, which is, I finish a book and then I go back and start the editing process, and that's the heavy lifting. It is. I could lose 100 pages. I could have to add new chapters. And then my editor comes back with lots of changes, and that starts the dominoes falling throughout a book. So it's an intensive process. I'm
yeah,
worried less about the grammar, but don't send in, but you can't send in it's got
anything.
to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like in traditional publishing, you need to have it edited and then send it in for editing.
It's
That's
true. It's a multifaceted editing process.
yeah. Even self-published books, those need to be edited as well too, or you can kinda tell. Um,
They do. They
I think so
do.
too. Yeah.
They do. And
Memoir.
I always say for people that are approaching hybrid or self-publishing, give it the same
Yep.
professionalism you would if you were working with someone else. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, and that goes from editing to promotion. Give it that same effort.
Yeah. You've got a question. Diane says, "I typed for so many years. It is like it is like breathing to me. I can type many pages in a few minutes. I type as fast as I talk." I love that. Typing. Do you type? Do you type on a typewriter or anything like that, or do you use computers? Some authors use typewriters still.
They do. Yeah, and I always joke, I know some of them. No, I sit down and I have a laptop. It's just easier
Okay.
for me now. That's what I do. But I know I have a friend named Rita Mae Brown who's a very prolific author, and she still typewrites everything. And I said, my publisher would kill me if I did that.
Oh, I don't know if I could
Here,
do it.
now retype it. They'd go, no,
No, I'm not.
I'm not
Uh,
gonna do that.
Somebody wants to know what your ideal Christmas date is.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
mine, I'm not sure. My I don't know who that
And,
question is for. I think it's for you though. You take it.
you answer after. I'm very I would just love to make dinner at home and open presents under the tree. I'm just very old fashioned that way. I don't, that's what it is for me. It's just being home and being around the decorations and just having some quiet time with those you love.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, we have 4 boys. They're 21, 23, 25, and 27, and
Wow.
they're starting to trickle back home from college right now. So we have 3 out of the 4 home, and it's so nice, to have them home. So I'm a homebody, so
I
what
bet you have some stories from those 10 to 18 years with
oh,
those 4.
oh, yeah.
That's a that's a lot
Another
of boys.
show or it's a lot of boys. Yeah, but the house right now has brownies and Rice Krispie treats and all the snacks that they love when they come back. It's pretty fun no matter how old they are.
That's
You
so
have another
cute.
yeah, oh, it's super fun, and we've got Christmas trees up. We have one fake one and one real one. We always do that
Oh,
every year. So it's pretty cool. Susie says, "Hi, Wade." And thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you very much, Susie, for saying hi. So what's it and somebody says, "Hi, Gary." Hi, Gary. Somebody wants to know what a typical writing day is for you, or
mm.
yeah, what's a
Um,
typical day?
like today, I get up decently early, usually like 6:30 or so, have breakfast, and then I start writing immediately. Like I always say, I write before the day intrudes. So,
Yeah,
before a lot of social media or I look at the news or any of that stuff, I really like to just start fresh on what I'm working on. And I
yeah.
write usually about 5 hours every
Wow.
morning, about 7 to noon, and then I go work out. I'm a big workout person, so workout or run that kind of unchannel all of that stuff and go through. Then I come back sweaty and I edit a little bit. I don't do big editing, but I kind of go through, refine what I've written that day and where I want to start the next day. And then the rest of it's this.
Yeah.
It's all business, what I call BART. Business, the business meets art. It's the business of publishing. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Social media, podcasts, interviews, magazine, essay writing, blog posts, all of that.
Yeah. It's one thing to write a book. It's a different thing to find readers. Don't you think?
100%.
It's
100%. It is a new, I always say if authors approach me and say, I just want to write a book and not do anything, it's not going to happen. You can't do that anymore. You have to, it's a tough world dominated by a lot of celebrities
yeah.
and celebrity authors that get the biggest amount of money from the publisher, the biggest amount of attention from shrinking media coverage. And it is a battle to find readers. And the way you do that is by, I hope what we both do is by being as real as you possibly can and connecting with your followers or readers in the most deeply personal way that you can, and let that build organically. And I think it eventually grows into something beautiful.
Yeah. I started a group for my book. There's almost 1,000 people in it now. And I think every day I
Wow.
go in there and I'm like, I love you guys.
It,
It's super funny. It's like just
it
some
is.
love. And it's genuine. It's like I really actually genuinely am like, thank you. I can't live my dreams without you.
And that's exactly, you put your finger on the pulse of what we all should be doing every single day, which is being grateful and appreciative. And I
Oh,
think people genuinely respond to that. They do.
yeah. Somebody just typed, I love listening to you both. Oh, thank you. Wait, does your new book mention places in, I'm going to say this, Saugatuck? I hope I
Yeah.
said that right. Sorry if I destroyed that. As I heard you say it, but I didn't totally memorize it, as some of your others do.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there are Saugatuck mentions in A Wish for Winter. It's pure Petoskey. So there's Petoskey. There's northern Michigan. There's
Yeah.
Petoskey. There's Traverse City is a piece of it. There's a lot of Chicago in it. I lived in Chicago for a few years, so there's a piece of it. I often like to juxtapose the city to quieter towns,
Yep.
small resort communities.
I
So I
noticed
kind
that.
of like to play that off of each other.
Now, do you live in do you live in different places? You live in Michigan and then you live in
Palm
Palm Springs?
Springs, and
My
yeah, in
favorite
the
place.
winter. Yeah,
Oh, Palm Springs.
yeah, it's amazing. Come out for the winter. So I get my winter. People are like, "But you left Michigan in the winter." I'm like, "We already had 3 feet of snow. It was
I know.
lovely." But
Well,
it's Palm Springs is magical in its own right. I mean,
it's
I'm looking
gorgeous.
at the mountain right out here.
Yeah.
It's just stunningly gorgeous. Architecture is beautiful. It has this cool vibe. I feel very at home here too.
Yeah, we moved to Maine from from Northern California in
Oh,
2004.
wow.
And this last winter, earlier this year, we both fell on the ice. And we're like, I think it's time to bail on the winter. so, so we're like, it can snow all Christmas, all January, but February, we're going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina
Oh,
for all
beautiful
of
too.
February. We're going to be on a golf course and we're just going to hang out and just be done
Well,
with winter for a month.
February is the hard. I always say it's like Michigan, it tends to, when that lake effect kicks in and the snow, it doesn't really stop. And
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful through the holidays. February gets to be very long. That's when it's dark. You don't know day from night and it starts to get hard. The sun will do you good.
Yeah. Somebody's asking where in Maine I'm from. Donna, I'm from Falmouth, Maine. I'm not from Maine. I am from Iowa. I was born in Minneapolis, but raised in Iowa. So I'm from the Quad Cities, which is kind of by Chicago. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit on eastern Iowa. You're both inspiring me to write after I retire from teaching first grade. Oh, cool. We just inspired
Wow.
somebody to write. Yay.
It's
Teaching first
amazing.
grade is my dream, actually. I love teaching. And if I could teach first grade, I would do that. But that's me personally. But it's always been your dream to write. Well, I'm curious as you're typing in the chat, what do you want to write? I'd love to
Yeah.
know what is it children's books or is it something totally
Yeah.
different? I want to know if she's in there teaching first grade thinking, I got a children's book in me, or if it's, don't you wonder?
Or it'll be a murder mystery.
Yeah, it's doing something totally different. Cynthia says, I would love another signed copy I can turn someone else into a reader of Viola Shipman novels too. You can't read
Aw,
just one. That is really true. You are
that's
one of
sweet.
those authors. That's a great comment. When I first came across you, I'm like, "Okay, who is this?" Kind of thing, and you don't know, and you read him like, "Oh, I love the way he writes. Let me see who he is." I'm like, "Oh, I love him too." And we reached out, we talked and everything. I'm like, "You are just the sweetest person ever." And then you keep reading your books, and you are one of those authors where a book comes out from you and people go buy it from you, and that is really hard to do, I think.
Thank I always say that's the biggest compliment is somebody
So
reads
cool.
one and then they go to find another and another and another. That's what we hope for. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Tell me in the comments, guys, what your favorite books are of his. And how much time do you have? Do you have like 5, 10 more minutes or do we need to
Sure.
go? You good? Okay. So tell me in the comments which books are your favorite. And Barbara says so true. You read one and you're hooked. I totally agree. I want to read a little bit more about you here. I have to look at my notes. What does it mean to be a USA Today um, bestseller? What does that mean? That's a lot of copies that have
A
sold.
lot of it's yeah, there are all the different bestseller lists out there, and that's their list is based solely on the number of copies that you sell in
Wow.
any given week. So that's
Yeah.
just mass sales.
When your book comes out, does your publisher ship like 10,000 copies for you to sign and then they go, I mean, how I saw this picture of you with so many copies and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, Wade." I wanted to write you and go, "Are you signing all of those books?" Oh my gosh, do you have help or is Gary helping or what's
We do.
happening?
We do. That's
Oh, wow.
it varies greatly. The publisher does, and then we do a lot of pre-order incentives and giveaways and contests to get people excited about the book. We do. I think this year we did a Santa basket giveaway. We did
Yeah,
a pre-order contest, and I think we did 1,000 books and book plates to kick it off.
it's
There was
amazing.
a year that I did. Brenda Novak is another author, and she does a book box every month. And if she selects one of your books, you sign about 1,500 copies for her books. So there's a lot of signing that's going on, but that's always a good thing. That means people want the books and they're going out the door early, and there's
Yeah.
excitement and momentum there. That's
And you
exactly
can't
what you want.
stamp. You're signing. I saw.
I
You're not doing that.
don't
You're not
I
cutting
don't like
corners.
that,
I
and
don't
I
either.
don't, and I'm not usually just a signer either. If people come to events, I drive bookstore owners nuts because I like to talk to them. I like to
Me too.
personalize
I
the
like
book.
that.
I sign something. I don't just scribble a name. I hate that. That's like one of my pet peeves.
Somebody came up for a book, and I'm like, "Can I get a picture with you?"
It's
It was hilarious. I'm like, "Can I get a pic?" They're like, "Wait a minute." I'm like, "Yeah, me." It was funny. I told Wade he feels like family. Totally agree. I've never felt
it's
like this. Oh, this picture. Hang on. I never felt like this with any author before. Best book, Heirloom Garden. What's the one? Somebody said their favorite book is Summer Camp, the Summer Camp one. Which one's that one again? I
the
love that
Clover
book.
Girls.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love that too. It's a lovely book about friendship.
Where did you get the idea for that one? Well, the whole time I was reading it, I'm like, "Where did you get the idea for this?"
I think a mix of some was deeply personal and some was inspired by setting. One hand, I lost a dear friend
Oh,
from college, and I wondered if I had been as good a friend as I should have been
mm,
over the years. I think it's something we often ask ourselves. We get busy with
yep,
life, we move, we have families, jobs, careers, and sometimes the people we had in our life, for right or wrong reasons, fade. And sometimes they make an effort or you make an effort, and it's still not enough to keep that connection. So that was one thing that really started to inspire that book. The other was there was a former summer camp in Michigan that I'd seen that was always just so beautiful,
mhm,
that I knew it had to be a setting at some point. And I did go to camp when I was young, after I lost my brother when I was young,
mm,
and it was the way my parents got me kind of back out into the world, and that changed my life greatly. So all of those kind of things kind of
yeah,
cogitated, as my grandma said, to get me writing that book.
yeah. What's an incredible yes in your life? On Best Ever You, we have this saying, what's an incredible yes is a moment where you said yes to someone or something and it completely changed your life. And sometimes we have many of them, but what's one or two of those for you? It's an
Oh my gosh.
incredible yes in your life.
I can go back to early on when I wanted to write a book and I was being somewhat negative in my life. Um, and my mother and Gary both said at the holidays, why don't you just write a book?
Hmm.
And I was like, is it really that easy? You know, do you, and, they said, my mother always said, you can always go back in your life, but you can never go forward. Just, the no regret, just, and I did, I said yes to that. I had a very demanding job at the time, and the only time that I could write was very early in the morning, and I was getting up at 4 and 4:30 in the morning before my real job to write that book, which ended up being my first memoir to be published, my first book to be published. Um,
Mm.
that was a that was a big yes to my mom, and it was a
Mm.
big yes to myself.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it's a great question to ask because those yeses, we don't say yes enough in our life, and it can pull a cork and change the trajectory of your life incredibly.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from you guys too in your chat. If you had an incredible yes of your own, tell us. We'll chime in about it and talk about it. Somebody said, so hard to pick a favorite. I love the Clover Girls and bought copies to send to childhood friends. I did that too. I love that book.
And
It
that's
brought back
sweet.
so many memories and so forth. Somebody said, I love all your books. Too hard to pick just one. And love The Summer Cottage and The Charm Bracelet. Let's talk about those books. The Summer Cottage and The Charm Bracelet.
The Charm Brace was my very first Viola Shipman novel, and I wrote it after my mother passed away, and I was trying to move my dad into a smaller house, and my dad was a royal pain, true Ozarks man. And I found all my grandmother's heirlooms boxed in the attic. I found her charm bracelets and recipe boxes
Mm.
and quilts. And I started writing. That's when I kind of had a calling, and I started writing the charm bracelet on top of a cardboard box that day. Um, and that kind of started that whole journey
I
um,
love that.
to writing these novels. It's a very sweet story of a grandmother reconnecting with her daughter and granddaughter. And the Summer Cottage was the I would call it an heirloom novel, but the kind of the first non-heirloom novel that I wrote. It was with the publisher I'm currently with. My first book, new contract, new publisher, and it's about a woman who's going through a very bad divorce, and never been happy in her career. Raised her family, husband leaves, and the normal thing would be to sell her family's cottage that she grew up going to on the coast of Michigan to get the money back. It's too hard to, you needed too much repair, and she doesn't. She says a yes to uprooting her life and moving there and finding what made her happy again. And it was inspired by, I used to go to my grandparents' log cabin growing up every summer. My grandmother had summer cottage rules, go jump in the lake, take a nap, um, watch the sunset, be happy. And those were the basis. Every chapter centered around one of my grandmother's
Right
cottage rules.
here.
It's a
You could
beautiful novel about finding yourself again.
Yeah, you could feel the heart. Just it's all that book had just all right here. Um, do somebody wants you to please talk about the recipe box?
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite books too. It was, that's inspired by my grandmother's. I grew up baking with my grandmother, and she had a recipe box on her counter, and she would just pull, those old recipe cards that she wrote or her mother or grandmother wrote, had the lard stains on them, the vanilla stains,
Yeah.
and she taught me a lot about my family history through the food she made, and
Love that.
so all of every chapter is centered around one of my grandmother's dessert recipes, and it's a story about a young woman who's a chef that returns home to her family's orchard. She'd run her whole life, and she returns home and finally finds herself again.
Yeah, beautiful. Any plans to come to Houston next year?
Okay, we just were talking about this. This is interesting. My meeting with the publisher I just had, Texas is on the list of places that we're trying to get to. So Dallas, Houston, we're really trying to make an effort if there, are larger events that maybe are going to do something. So that we're looking hard at that.
Yeah. I have just a personal question. What's behind you? I love interviewing people to see what's hanging on the wall and stuff.
This is
What's behind you on the wall?
I do. This is something that we started doing very early on because when I was first published, I would say, "Will I ever have a second book?" Oh my gosh, I don't think I would just have one
I
book.
know.
And so we started. I have this in Michigan going up to my office. I live right in a carriage house. That, and here I have every book cover that I've ever published on a
Oh,
wall behind me.
isn't that cool? Look at
So
that.
I do that as kind of a true reminder every day of what you can do,
Yeah.
and commitment.
Yeah. What's one of those that okay, and maybe they've all sold beautifully, but what's one of those that maybe didn't sell so great even at first, and you're like, "Oh, I wish that one would sell better."
Oh my gosh,
Or
you got
know better.
it's I started writing memoir beginning of my career, and it's a very hard, genre,
Yeah.
because you have every memoir that's big today, you've got Prince Harry, Viola
Yeah.
Davis, Matthew Perry. So that's really who dominates the
Right.
world. When for humor writers, you've got David Sedaris, Augustin Burroughs, Jenny Lawson. It's a tough battle, but my first book was called America's Boy, and it's currently out of print. It's the only book I have that's out of print, and it's a beautiful story about me growing up in the Ozarks. And I hope that is republished. And then this is my second memoir called Confessions of a Prep School Mommy Handler. And it's about my tenure working at an elite prep school, with very wealthy mothers. And it's really a book about self-esteem and how we choose to treat each other. And it
Wow.
is a
I bet
book
that's
that
interesting.
I love this book. It was a difficult book to write, and I think it is one that got much too little attention. And really, when people read it, they're still deeply touched by the story.
Yeah, can we get that on Amazon? Or do we have to get that
You
from you
can, yeah,
signed
you can.
okay. Okay. What about that one that's out of print? Can we get that, like, at Book Depository, or
I
is it gone?
think you can. I think you
Let's have
can.
a
And
look.
we're working hard, hopefully, to get that back going again.
Do you, I don't think this has been asked yet, so I'm gonna ask it. Are any of your books in the works for movies?
Um, I keep saying this, and I'm not trying to be obtuse. We're very close.
Yeah, you're almost your own Hallmark Channel in the making, I think.
It's very close. I've actually said no to everything that I've been offered in the past. So we're feel like the right folks are coming through now. So
Oh, good. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so those are good no's then, aren't they?
they're
That's
good no's.
painful, isn't
They're
that
actually
chunky?
good knows in your life too.
Yeah, isn't that hard when you're like, "Oh, that's a dream, but I gotta say no to that." And you're like, "Ah, is that gonna come around again, or did I just say no to my shot?" That's
That's
a hard
100.
no, isn't it?
It's listening to your heart and believing what's right, and that there'll be the right yes coming down.
Yeah. All right. Have to go, but please enter me in the drawing. Yes, we will. Thank you for this wonderful Monday evening chat. Yes, we do need to go. We're at the hour mark with you. Can you believe that?
I
Um,
love it.
I hope you come back and we can just chat with you because it's super fun.
I
I think
would.
we learned something. We learned a lot from you. Okay, before we go though, just like a few more minutes. Is there anything I didn't ask you? Because I know we got a lot of chat going on. Is there anything you want to say, or anything I didn't ask you about, or anything I didn't cover? Or
I hope people enjoyed our conversation and feel inspired to, you know, do
yeah,
something wonderful
yeah,
this coming year. We often I like that you said we don't know, what's your biggest yes. Sometimes we have to say yes to something that scares us or that we want to do. We often give so much to others, and sometimes sometimes you're a better person because you are doing something that fulfills you and makes you happy. So I hope everybody out there is inspired to do something beautiful in 23.
beautiful. Okay, Megan Garrity, you are the winner. of the book giveaway. So if you could DM me your address, we'll get that right to you. And whenever you sign that and send it to her. Do you know Megan? Have you ever
I
heard of Megan
don't.
Garrity? Okay, cool. Well, Megan Garrity, you are the winner. I'm picking a winner right now before we go.
That's
And
awesome. Yeah,
maybe we'll do some more from here.
just let me know her address.
Okay, yeah, Megan, don't type that in the chat. Just DM me personally or Elizabeth@besteveryou.com for that. One more before we go. What is Wine and Words with Wade, and how can we best reach you? Where do you hang out in social media, and what's your website and all that stuff?
Websites, violashipman.com or waderouse.com. I have two sites. And then on social media, Viola Shipman on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And Facebook is, I do a lot on Facebook and Instagram. And every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, I do Wine and Words with Wade. I've been doing it going on 3 years now since the pandemic. And I interview best-selling authors, but I also do my own thing that's very different from other authors. Gary and I do craft days, and we do holiday strolls of our house, and we talk about inspiration and hope and living your life without fear.
Love
So
it.
this rest of December is our holiday stroll. So this Thursday at 6:30, we're doing we're showing people our decorations of our tree, sharing stories, and then Gary's doing a Christmas craft day. So it's going to be a fun day.
Tell me more about Gary.
Oh my gosh, Gary's
Who's Gary? I know Gary, but tell me
husband of
about him a little bit.
27 years and
Oh,
kind of the foundational support of everything that I do. You know, he's the one that said, just start writing. I believe in you and anything that you can do. Um, and now he's joined me on Wine and Words with Wade. He sets up my author tours. He works closely with the publisher on all my social media and advertising. So
total
he kind
sweetheart.
of keeps the ship going in the right direction.
How'd you meet him?
Oh my gosh. And short story, in St. Louis, Missouri, we were at a coffee shop and he was actually not supposed to be there. It was the days
Oh,
before
cool.
cell phones. And he's supposed to pick up a friend at the airport. And the friend his flight was delayed. So he couldn't go get him. So he was
That just
just
gave me
sitting
goosebumps.
there waiting. You know, and it just happened. It was just
Meant to be.
total happenstance.
That is so meant to be. Do
Yeah.
you talk about that? That is just like a series of
We
events
do,
meant to be.
and we
Oh,
still
that's
like
cool.
coffee, so it was meant to be.
Yep. I met my husband in New York City, a block away from where his mom grew up. Ran
Oh my
like on a
gosh.
Saturday at 7 in the morning, and we've been married since. We were love at first sight, married ever since, all the stuff. So yeah, same thing.
Things were meant to be, but I also say too, you have to be paying attention in life.
Oh yeah, you gotta pause.
Gotta
Pause for the
pause.
slowdown. All right, everybody, we love you a lot. And thank you so much for listening and being here with us and watching and participating. How cool is that? I love all the comments and everything. You guys are all awesome. And Gary, any last words of wisdom to everybody? You got lots of fans here.
I thank you for having me so much, and I hope that buy the book.
By the book.
Perfect Christmas gift for your favorite reader, yourself, perfect stocking stuffer.
All
Shove
right.
a few in your cart.
That's perfect. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks
Happy
for being with
holidays.
us. Bye.